Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are the Jocks of All Trades podcast. I am Brad, joined by Kyle as usual for fantasy. What's up, man?
Just hanging out, having a good time. I think I lost 2 of my fantasy games this week. I'm in 3 leagues, so not the best week for me. I lost both games because of the Monday night game. So partly because Aaron Jones, I think, got 40 points. So not the greatest weekend for me, but I was almost there. So
Makes sense. Let me check something. Sorry, I was doing some last minute stuff. Anyhow, that's awesome. I am having a opposite reaction in both leagues that I'm in. I am 2-0 in one league and 0-2 in another league. So my fantasy advice might be very 50-50. So, that's not a problem, but just to let everybody know where we're at. Kyle, let's start out where we usually do with our Jocks grades. Start us out. Who had an A this week?
I'm going to give the A to Cooper Kupp. When I did draft Cooper Kupp in one of my leagues, so I'll give myself a pat on the back for that one. He seems like the favorite target for Matt Stafford right now, which is really cool to see. Robert Woods really isn't doing as much as Cooper Kupp, but he puts up 36 points. He got 10 targets the first game, 11 targets the second game. So you like to see that target share when it goes up like that. If it's over 10, that's a player worth taking, worth starting, because they're going to see the ball a lot. So he had a killer game. So my A is to Cooper Kupp.
Awesome. What's up, Caleb, my man? We are talking fantasy football. We are going to go through a whole lot of stuff. I know you and I have talked about fantasy before, and you do not play, but that's okay. We're kind of going to walk you through the stuff not to do as a fantasy player. Anyhow, that being said, yes, Cooper Kupp is the man. I kind of fumbled on that one a little bit and took Bobby Trees. I was hoping that dude was going to go off, and I am sucking on the far side of that was not the guy to pick on the Rams offense. Kyle, who's our B jock grader this week?
Our B, well, that would be Marquise Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. If you watched the game, you would see that he's probably Lamar Jackson's favorite target. Marquise kind of disappointed, I think, all of us last year in terms of fantasy and just how he did. But this year it seems like it's just he's a necessity out there because literally there's no one else out there. Mark Andrews, I feel like, not doing that much. The running backs are all down. Marquise Brown is definitely a focal part of this offense. He got 23 points against the Chiefs, and I think he's going to continue to get some pretty good points the next few weeks. So.
Which, I mean, I've got to admit that I'm really shocked about that too, because Hollywood did not do good early in his career, even with Lamar there. And suddenly he has just blossomed as that wide receiver one I was really hoping he would turn into. Let it be what it is. Maybe this is like a week one kind of like desperation move, but I agree with you. He is getting the most targets out of everyone else in the Ravens. So take it how you will. But if I'm going to take anyone on the Ravens right now, I would definitely take him over Tyson Williams. Well, our number C. Wow, I'm doing great.
Brought to you by the letter C.
Our C for this week shouldn't really shock anybody, but I'm sure it's going to. Let him have it, Kyle.
Zeke Elliott, listen, you've been an F for a while, a big old F. Partly because you look like a bum and you look like an Ewok from Star Wars, and you just really haven't performed like you should have in terms of fantasy, just in terms of where you were picked. You kind of look like you're losing a step. But I'll give you a C this week because you did more than I thought you would. Even with Tony Pollard going off, you still managed to get 15.7 points and help Dallas Cowboys beat the Chargers. So I'll give you a C with hopes that you'll turn your fantasy production around a little bit, and this is the start of it.
That being said, I'm still not convinced that Zeke is a first round pick. But
Worth it? Yeah, I don't know yet. It's gonna take a couple weeks, I think, to figure out if he was. I know I wouldn't draft him in the first round.
No,
I did not touch him.
absolutely
So
not. What about D, Kyle?
D is for Jameis Winston. Listen, he came back to earth this week. The first week was kind of an anomaly, I think, partly because he only threw for 140 passing yards. If you're throwing for 140 passing yards and getting 5 touchdowns, it doesn't really equate that much. Why? Well, he's given the ball to Alvin Kamara quite a bit. But he came back down to earth, threw a lot of picks, like we know Jameis to do with the 30 touchdowns and 30 picks of a couple years ago. So he had 10.3 points. Definitely could have hit 0, but I'll give you a D just because I wanted to throw you in there and throw you under the bus a little bit.
Yeah. And our F, I put this one, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on why I put it there.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, 5.9 points in F. The Ravens shut him down. Anthony Averett was on him most of the game, I think. He's a very big, physical, long corner, which apparently has some speed too if you only held Tyreek Hill to 5.9 points. So the Chiefs scored a lot of points, and the Ravens could not tackle at all that game if you watched it. Travis Kelce just bumped his way down for like 60 yards, and no one touched him. But hey, they shut down Tyreek Hill and they came out with a dub. So I don't think Hill will have a lot of these weeks with only 6 points, but he definitely did not save fantasy teams this weekend.
No. It was also a little stressing seeing that you can shut down Tyreek Hill.
You can, but everybody else is gonna
I know.
Gonna get their targets.
But if you're a fantasy manager, spending your first round pick on a dude that dropped 5.9 points, that hurts. That's what I'm saying. Like, you shouldn't have that game from him.
Right. Our next segment is Sleeper Seekers, and I wanted to give you guys a list of the guys that we had last week, just to give you a little bit of that we have some credibility. Yeah, a little bit of credibility. Like, these are the guys. I honestly didn't look anywhere and say this was the guys you should get. We do this off of our own and things that we see. So I told you Kenny Gainwell last week, and he only got 7.2 points in a PPR league, but maybe in a 12, 14 team league that helped you out. I hope it did. I still think he's going to see a good number of targets going forward. I told you to pick up Tony Pollard. He had 23 points in a PPR league. He went off against the Chargers. Do you think Pollard will have this kind of production going forward, Brad, or is this
It's possible. It's something about those Memphis backs. Like, they're not bad.
Yeah, Gainwell and Pollard are both from Memphis. Yep.
They flourish in that backup role. So part of me is a little scared if the Cowboys do say, hey, Pollard, you're a starting RB. Like, I like him coming off the bench. I like him coming off the bench and tearing it up. I'm not sold on him starting yet, but he's a killer. He reminds me of like that James White role.
For sure.
It's like he's not the best back on their roster, but he's a back that's going to be a threat every time he touches the field.
Right. And if the Cowboys still have a kind of a crappy defense, which they're getting better, but they still kind of do, you're going to play from behind, or you're going to win in shootouts. And Tony Pollard's much more of a receiving back than Zeke Elliott is. So you kind of want him on the field. I think Tony Pollard is 12th in fantasy running backs right now, which is really good. Again, it's only been 2 weeks, but he had 13 rushing attempts. He had 3 catches. So if you're getting the ball 17 times a game as a running back, that's definitely worthy enough. It's worthy enough to put him as a running back 2 or running back 3, I think. Yeah. So we'll see what his target share is going forward. But last week I told you to pick up Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Justin Fields is going to be a starter this week, and Brad, I'm being honest, I think I might put him in against you this week instead of Tom Brady. I'm thinking about it. Is it stupid? Maybe, but I kind of want to just to see.
I'm burning right now because I have in the other league I have Kyler and I have Justin Fields. And I know Justin Fields has such a good matchup this week,
Yeah.
but Kyler has been tearing it up every week. It is so hard for me right now because I'm like, I want to capitalize on Justin Fields coming in and just tearing him up. But I think I have to go Kyler. Like, you just can't. He's on a hot streak. I'm not going to take it away until he really like stumbles. So I'm probably going to think about that until Sunday before games.
And then I told you to pick up Tim Patrick, and he got 12.7 in a PPR league. Now listen, he only had 4 targets in the first 2 weeks. For the first week, for the second week. So the target share isn't great, but it seems to get targets in the red zone. And again, with Judy being out, Cortland Sutton's rank kind of went up this week. He had a ton of points, but I think Tim Patrick is still a guy you want on your team just in case, because Sutton hasn't stayed healthy, and I feel like KJ Hamler isn't the guy you're going to give a lot of targets to. So it's going to be Sutton and Tim Patrick, I think. And Noah Fant's value should go up too. But maybe that 12.7 helped you out. I hope it did. And then lastly, we were wrong on Van Jefferson. He is going to be a hit or miss, I'm pretty sure. He's not going to get a lot of targets. He's going to have some big play opportunities. So maybe on a whim you start him and you get lucky, but I would not count on him as a starter in any kind of league. So
I'm going to treat him like a fullback. Like, you don't really start fullbacks in fantasy.
no.
Like, yeah, they could have a game, but not enough where I'm going to put him over some guys that I know are guaranteed to go off.
Right.
So that is all of last week's Sleeper Seekers. What about this week, Kyle?
We have J.D. McKissick. The first week, I don't think he did that much, but this last week, he got a good number of catches. He had 20.3 points against the Giants. The Redskins have a decent number of running backs, but with Taylor Heineke there, I think he's not going to make many wow throws. He's not going to extend that many plays. He's going to do what the game plan is. And if he wants to check it down, he's going to check it down. He's going to get it to his running backs. And J.D. McKissick, I think last year, man, he had like 60 or 70 catches last year, which is crazy. So in a PPR league, like, pick him up. He might not get 20 every week, but I think you could see him maybe getting 14 or 15 every week. He's getting the ball quite a bit, so
and of course I dropped him right before that game.
Ouch. Yeah, I think he's 32nd in running back points right now. The first week he got 0.8, so that will scare you a little bit. But I think he should be involved in the game plan. He was last year. I don't know why you would take him out all of a sudden this year, especially with Curtis Samuel kind of still being hurt. They're looking for more production out of the running backs, so I think McKissick is worth picking up and starting.
Yep.
Brad, what do you think about the second guy here?
I hate that you just asked me this. The second guy is Cordarrelle Patterson. Listen, he had 23.9 points against the Buccaneers. That is not a small ticket. Like, that's kind of rough to do. I don't think a whole lot of guys are going to do that. And he had 12 touches. Like, out of that Falcons offense that seems like it's still struggling for an identity, that's pretty good. If you're getting 12 touches out of that, when you've got the Calvin Ridleys and Kyle Pitts of the world that are out there, that means something. I'm not sold on his longevity, but I will say, going up against the Giants, who are they're just I don't even know. I can't even say the appropriate word that I'm thinking in my head.
Well, if you look at it, J.D. McKissick last week was against the Giants, and he's not similar to he is a little bit similar to Cordarrelle Patterson. He's not the same body type or anything, but he's one of those running backs that they're going to stick out in the flats. That they're going to throw to out of the backfield, using a bunch of different ways. So if you see anything from J.D. McKissick last week, maybe you're like, maybe Cordarrelle can do the same thing, because he's not a receiver and he's not a running back. He's an in-betweener. And listen, the Falcons suck. They do. They suck. And that matters in fantasy because they're going to try to get the best players the ball. And Cordarrelle Patterson, sadly, is one of their best players. So
The concerning thing with this too is the Mike Davis truthers. What do you do with Mike Davis now?
I mean, I don't think he's worth starting. I think he's one of those guys that probably won't get a ton of yards, but he might be lucky enough to get him a touchdown. Kind of like Zach Moss this week. I think he had 2 touchdowns, but he only ran the ball like 8 carries for 24 yards. So like, that's not great. But maybe you'll get lucky and get Mike Davis a couple touchdowns. That's about it, though.
Yeah.
Um,
The next one, Kyle. Man, I'm still banging this one around in my head too as picking up another running back. Michael Carter had 10.8 points against New England, right? Patriots.
yeah. Yep.
And 13 touches. Now, listen, I know the Jets are still playing by committee in that backfield with Tevin Coleman?
Tevin Coleman is there. Yeah.
And Johnson, but 13 touches out of all that when you're a rookie, that's not bad. I think that would say that you're going to end up having a bigger role in the future.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would start him right away, but I would pick him up and sit him on my bench and just kind of watch him.
Yeah, that's what you're banking on, really, is what he's going to do later, I think. Because, like you said, he is a rookie. He was drafted for his versatility. He's one of those running backs, like we talked about, that is a good runner, but also very good out of the backfield, can catch the ball, can do screens, can run routes. Is very good at that. So I think Jets, they're going to love that. And if he gets 10.8 points, that's not awful. If he was your flex, like, that's not exactly what you want to see, but it's not the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? So like, he's worth picking up. Starting yet? I don't know. You want to see a little bit more out of his touches. You want to see that go up. You want to see how many snaps he plays in a game. Look up those percentages. But I think against Denver next week, he could probably get around the same touches. But he's a guy that you're kind of banking on later in the season, I think.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with that. And we have one more, Kyle. I'm gonna let you take this one because I'm not sure what I think.
Max Williams had the tight end from the Arizona Cardinals. He had 7 targets, 7 catches, 16.4 points. I think he had about 90 yards up next versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm surprised because I feel like Dan Arnold was the kind of guy the Cardinals went to. And listen, they have a lot of weapons down there. They just signed AJ Green in the offseason. They drafted Rondale Moore. Andy Isabella is still somewhere there. Christian Kirk's still there. They have they have so many guys. But the first week he had 1 target and 0 yards, 0 points. So am I saying this guy should be your top tight end, starting tight end? Definitely not. But if you're getting 7 targets in a game, that's worth looking at, diving deep into to figure out maybe he could be a good backup tight end, or maybe you look at your matchups and he's worth playing. Next week again, he plays the Jaguars and they're 24th against tight ends in fantasy, so maybe he could get a touchdown or 2. So definitely don't bank on him, but he might be a guy to pick up for your team.
Good, because I read this earlier this week and did exactly that, because my new theory in the league where I'm 0-2, because I didn't really have a good tight end, was just grab a tight end and start whatever tight end has a good matchup every week.
It's not bad. I do that with defense.
Yeah.
I do that with defense. Yeah. Actually, that's not a bad strategy. I've done that with defense for in fantasy the last 5 years I've played fantasy. Sometimes you get burned, but just it's hard to do in the beginning of the year, but maybe middle to the end. Like, look on the waiver wire and see what defenses are playing horrible offenses, or maybe there's a defense out there that's playing a rookie quarterback. And you're like, ooh, I can capitalize on this. So I'm playing the Panthers defense against Davis Mills. So I'm thinking that'll work out. Maybe I'll get burned, but there have been stupider pickups. So, it could be a strategy for you guys if you wanted to do that. Do you want to go to jock or a joke?
Sure do. Was already looking at it. Kyle, do you want to hit us for the first one? I really want to talk about the second one.
Yes. Cortland Sutton, 24.9 points last week, up next versus the New York Jets. Is he a jock or is he a joke?
Um, Excellent question. If Judy wasn't hurt, it would be a joke, without a doubt, because I don't like his injury history, and I wasn't sure how well he was going to come back from that. But he did play well. Looked quick, got open for the most part. He might be a jock because I mean, who else are they really going to lean on in Denver? And you and I both know the Teddy Bridgewater effect that happens in fantasy. When you have Teddy Bridgewater throwing to somebody, everybody tends to get a little better around him.
Yeah.
Robbie Anderson was not like a top receiver last year, but he did decent having Bridgewater throwing to him. So even if you don't trust in Drew Lock, I would put more trust in Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe Cortland Sutton. Sorry, Cortland Sutton is a joke. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think Teddy Bridgewater, when they announced him as the starter, I think that pulled up the value of other guys higher than last year.
Yeah.
Just because, does he have the crazy arm that Drew Lock does? No, but like he's a veteran and he's been there before, and he can put up good numbers. He plays within himself. He doesn't make many mistakes. Yeah, Sutton's going to be his number one target. So it's just you don't know with Teddy Bridgewater. Like I said, he plays within himself, but he won't put up gaudy numbers. So if he doesn't put up gaudy numbers, will Cortland Sutton continue that? I don't know. It's tough to say once they figure out the Denver Broncos offense. Brad, Sam Darnold, jock or a joke?
Jock, without a doubt. I said this in our Jock Talk episode yesterday. I'm going to double down on it. With the Adam Gase effect is in full force with Sam Darnold. I like him. He looks good. He doesn't look like he's seeing ghosts on the field, which people are saying is a.
They asked Zach Wilson that. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
A stupid Jets reporter asked Zach Wilson if he was seeing ghosts. I feel so bad.
I just feel like they want to pick on Jets quarterbacks, but anyways,
I do.
Sam Darnold, yeah, absolutely a jock. I would. Maybe not. I might start him this week if I had like a meh quarterback against Houston. But again, I don't think he's a gaudy number person. He's more of a consistent number person.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. He had about the same point total in week 1 versus week 2. Up next, he plays Houston. That could be a game where he goes up more than 22 points. So he might be worth starting if your quarterbacks are hit and miss. Like if your quarterback is Jalen Hurts and you're like, well, this game he got like 30, this game he got like 12, and you want someone to be more consistent, maybe Darnold's the guy that you want to pick up.
Yeah.
Brad, ask me about the next guy because you're biased.
Yeah, that's fine. Henry Ruggs had 4 points in his first game, 23.3 points against the Pittsburgh defense. And now his next game is against Miami. Jock or a joke, Kyle?
I loved Henry Ruggs when he came out. I fully believed that he was going to be a jock just in terms of the player that he is, the speed that he has. But I just don't trust him yet. I don't want to call him a full joke. I just don't trust him. He had 5 targets the first game, 7 the second game. That's decent. It is. It's really good. But Derek Carr has never really been known for the deep ball. He's never really been known for getting guys the ball like 50 yards downfield. I just don't really trust that. Derek Carr's playing really well, and the Raiders look like they're on the up and up. This is the first time I've kind of seen Henry Ruggs go off like this. So at least with this next game against Miami, who has really good corners, Pitt has nothing, but Miami has really good corners. I would wait off a little bit on trusting him with that 23 a game because he only had about 6 the first game. So I'm going to call him a joke for right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe after the Miami game he got a little bit more consistent. So
I'll push back, not because he's a Bama guy, but just because of three things. A, he had 7 points against the Ravens defense, which I know not everybody's going to sit there and say, "Oh, the Ravens defense is so good."
But you got Humphrey there.
Those corners,
yeah, Humphrey's really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really shock me that he had 7. But against Pitt, yeah, there's nobody there. If you can just get him the ball, he's going to do something. The problem last year was getting him the ball. This year, I feel good because Derek Carr is looking for him, which is impressive when you have the Darren Wallers of the world who are going to soak up a freaking target.
Derek Carr does look at Darren Waller quite a bit. If you're a Darren Waller fantasy owner, you are happy because he's seeing the ball a lot.
That's why I'm saying I would take Ruggs. If there's like big jocks and little jocks, I'll take him as a little jock right now. He's one of those like flyers that could do it. But I feel good that Carr is finally looking at him because what receivers do they have? You got Waller and Ruggs. I don't see Edwards going on.
I'm sorry. Edwards is doing better. I'll give him that. But we also got the elite Clemson receiver, Hunter Renfrow, Brad.
Oh, God.
Didn't he catch it? Hunter Renfrow. Next guy, another Alabama guy, Damian Harris. He's averaging about 11 fantasy points right now. The number 1 Patriots running back. Is he a jock, Brad, or is he a joke?
Both. And here's why.
Not allowed.
It is, and here's why. He is a jock because I don't know. Man, we should have recorded our summer conversations, but I don't know if you remember what I said when Mac Wilson was named the starter. It was great if you are a Patriots running back because Cam Newton soaked up so many goal line package runs.
For sure.
That, like, even if you did have Damian Harris or James White or whoever, like, the flavor of the day was for the Patriots, you couldn't trust him because Cam Newton is going to take those touchdowns in the red zone. So once they got rid of Cam Newton, I said, oh, and I drafted both of them. I drafted James White and Damian Harris because I said, oh, they're going to go off. Now, James White has done better than Damian Harris, but that's because that dude catches everything out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to get rid of Damian Harris yet. I'm not going to get rid of him yet. However, here's the joke part. He is not an RB1. And the problem is he is splitting with James White, which means Damian Harris is not going to catch anything out of the backfield. So you need him to go off and you need him to score a touchdown, which might be a tall order with that whole offense. Not really – like, the offense is good, but it just doesn't have an identity. Like, are they
no, it's not gelling. It's not gelling quite yet. They don't have everything they need to be super successful. But he did see the ball 43 times in 2 games. Yeah. That's good. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't want to draft him in the first round or anything, but no matter kind of where you drafted him, which I assume is middle to late, like, that's pretty good value if you're getting the ball 20 times a game. I think you're right. He's not going to – his yards per carry is probably not going to be that high. But if you're getting the ball 20 times a game, you'll probably get around 70, 80 yards, and you got to hope that he does get a touchdown. Because if he does, he'll probably average around 14 a game, which is not bad. You're right. He won't see catches. He won't. Like, he's not that kind of guy. But he might be pretty good for your running back number 3, I think.
Let me put it this way. I like him as a flex. I don't like him as a start. Yeah,
I would agree with that. But if you need someone as a starter and he's on your bench, like, put him there because you don't really got many other options, I'm sure. KJ Osborne averaging about 17.3 points per game for the Vikings, up next against Seattle. I had no idea where this guy was from at the beginning of the year. Still really don't know much about this guy. He's kind of just run onto the scene. But is he a jock or is he a joke?
I don't know. I'm going to say joke. Just because when your offense runs through Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen, that's a little clogged to be adding a third receiver in there. Yeah. I think this guy has benefited from opportunity more than startability, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would not start him every week expecting him to have a touchdown and like 200 receiving yards, and that's not going to happen. If anything, that's going to be Jefferson for the yardage and Thielen for the touchdowns. So, what point is it for me to pick up KJ Osborne? Like you have not proven anything to anybody yet. Like you've just been a benefit of opportunity because Kirk Cousins is an okay quarterback. So I don't know. I wouldn't pick him up honestly because next week they're going to play Seattle, and yes, Seattle's defense is iffy, but they are spry. They're young, so those hits aren't going to be soft. Let's put it that way. So if Mr. I benefit from opportunity is playing against that defense, that's not the defense that I would sit there and say, oh yeah, he's going to have like 100 something yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he's benefiting from having Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook and everybody putting all their chips on the table against those guys. I don't think that holds up. I don't think it holds up just to be the forgotten man, that everyone's focused on the other guys, that you're right there wide open. I don't think that holds up. So
and we just listed 3 guys ahead of him, so you are the 4th option on the Vikings. I don't like
it. I don't think that will hold up in the long run. Hunter Henry signed a pretty big deal in the offseason. Chose to be like the backup tight end for the Patriots instead of going back to the Chargers or literally anywhere else. He's averaging about 6 points per game, 3 targets per game. Is Hunter Henry a jock or is he a joke?
Joke. He is a panic start for me. For no reason am I going to sit there and say, yeah, I should play Hunter Henry this week. Jonnu isn't doing super hot either. So I just don't think you like for as much as those like the opportunity that those tight ends could have, it just hasn't materialized because again, like we said, that offense hasn't found its identity yet. So one week they're running real heavy. Another week, Mac Jones is going for like 30 or like 35 attempts per. You know what I mean? Like it's not a guarantee that they're going to get involved. I think the talent and the opportunity that they have against terrible defenses, yeah, absolutely. But it wouldn't be a week by week start. I know Luke is going to watch this, and I basically told him that too. Like I like Jonnu over Mike Gesicki on his team, but not enough that I would just ride Jonnu the whole season. Like pick up somebody that's having a good matchup that week.
For sure. Let's go with our rapid fire questions now. Starting with fantasy. Starting with Justin Fields. Brad, will Justin Fields have similar numbers to a Jalen Hurts type quarterback, or shouldn't we trust him quite yet?
Yes, he will. Even with a crappy O-line, because he's going to find ways to make plays with his legs like he did at Ohio State. He's just too smart of a quarterback for me to not think he'll have those kind of numbers. Maybe not right away, but after time.
Yeah, if you look at last week for Jalen Hurts, he played terribly, but he only had 190 passing yards, but he still ended up with 21 fantasy points as a quarterback. Why? Because he ran the ball and he got a rushing touchdown. So Justin Fields, if the play breaks down, like you said, like I think he could put up those numbers, and occasionally he might get you like 30. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards maybe starting him this week. Another rapid fire. Is it time to trade or wait on Saquon Barkley?
I'll give you another one. Cut. I am not convinced that he holds any trade value. I'm not convinced that he should start. I would either bench him or cut him because he is still hurt. He was not ready. He said as much himself in the offseason, and they still started him. Like, I don't know if that was an organization thing or a him thing, but he was not ready to play. He should not be playing. So I'm not even going to say trade. Why would I trade for a guy that was drafted in the first round who's dropping like 8 points a game? No.
Well,
thanks.
if you don't have to give up that much to get him, maybe you trade for him.
If the manager is being smart about how they want to trade him, yes, maybe. I would take a low flyer, maybe give up a late round pick and like a middling RB or a good RB and ask for a pick and Saquon back. Like that's how much I don't trust Saquon. He does not look like Saquon because he's hurt. When he's healthy, you better believe I'm going to like that late schedule that he's got. You better believe I'm going to like if he starts playing like that towards the end for me and my championship playoffs. Yes, but right now,
whose value gets impacted the most, positive or negative, now that Wentz is hurt? And then what about Tua as well? So what receivers, what running backs value gets impacted the most with those injuries?
I'll give you one, but I'll also tell you any defense that plays the Colts. But anyhow, I will say maybe we see the return to Michael Pittman because Pittman was consistent for Phillip Rivers, found himself open. It just doesn't look like Wentz has looked his way a lot. Maybe he had like some really good training camp, like vibes with Pascal because Pascal seems to be his guy and that kind of Tyreek Hill, or not Tyreek Hill, T.Y. Hilton kind of like guy. Maybe we'll see Pittman return. And then the obvious one is, or at least it should be obvious, the Colts running game, which has just been abysmal. But they have played two pretty decent defenses against the run back-to-back weeks.
Rams and Seattle, right?
Maybe that turns around. But for right now, those are the two people that I think benefit. For Tua, I'm not sure because I don't trust Brissett. I think it hurts Waddle, Devontae Parker, Fuller. I don't care who your receiver is. That hurts. Your tight end, Gesicki might actually be an okay start this week because if Brissett can't get the ball out to his guys, he's going to look for that check down either to Gaskin or Gesicki. So those are the two players I think benefit for the Dolphins, but not the receivers at all, especially when you're who are they playing this week, Kyle? The Texans. Oh, the Texans. Now I got to think about that because maybe that works out. But I still just don't trust Brissett enough to start the Jalen Waddles and the Will Fullers and Devontae Parkers of the world. I just don't.
Yeah, I think Gaskin's value might go up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Waddle and Parker really haven't had or done that much so far. I mean, they've been decent. I mean, it's early for sure. You just don't really know with those receivers. I'm trying to remember how Jacoby Brissett did with the Colts. I wondered, like, who was his favorite target? Who was his favorite? Wasn't sexy. I don't know who his favorite targets were. If he went downfield that much.
I think so.
No. Okay. Let's go to Nightmare on Jock Street. Brad, what do we got for this week?
I would love to talk about this. This helped me win my game in the league where I'm 2-0. Kenny Golladay looks like a trash can, man. He is averaging 8.60 points. He has 14 total targets, 7 receptions out of that, and 102 yards after 2 games. Right now, the $1 million man does not look like he's worth one singular penny of that contract. Wisely, I avoided Kenny Golladay as I drafted him very high last year because he was supposed to be the guy for Matthew Stafford. And that just never materialized with injury. And then when he was there, he looked like garbage. So glad I passed on that this year. Kyle, is he going to be a recurring bad dream for us?
Probably. Probably. I just really don't trust the quarterback there at all. I don't trust the system. I don't trust Jason.
I just don't trust Kenny Golladay because Sterling Shepard is doing great. But
yeah, you're right. I just, for me, it's about Daniel Jones, the offensive line. It hasn't gotten better at all. And then Jason Garrett, the clapper, as your offensive coordinator. They're just not getting the ball to him. Sure, Sterling Shepard is open, and he's getting pretty good fancy numbers right now. But They also have a lot of guys. I mean, they drafted Kadarius Toney in the first round. They still have Darius Slayton. They're trying
Yes.
to get Saquon. They're trying to get Saquon involved. When Evan Ingram comes back, what's going to happen there? Right now, their best offense is Daniel Jones running the ball. So, yeah.
The sad thing is, you and I have more career reception yards in the NFL than Kadarius Toney. And I'm going to take some backlash because I don't know if people remembered me talking about like mock draft and stuff like that. I said Toney might be one of those way late round flyers that ends up being something, but he struggled all off season, all training camp, all everything. He just does not look it, which is crazy because he's so fast and like loved him at Florida. But I think he might be one of those flash pan guys that just kind of like
he might be a one-trick pony. We'll see.
Next on our bad dreams that are occurring, Brandon Ayuk is averaging 0.80 points in fantasy. Dude has had 2 targets and 1 reception and 6 yards after 2 games. Kyle, walk me through this. What is happening?
What's happening is the 49ers heavily rely on their run game. They always have and they always will. Deebo Samuel is getting a ton of the targets. I think he probably has more targets than George Kittle does. What's his face? It's not Sheffield. It's Trent Sherfield is seeing the ball more than Brandon Ayuk. I don't understand. Is he in the doghouse? Are they just kind of waiting to show these new wrinkles later for other teams? Like maybe they're holding on to stuff. Ayuk last year wasn't really the best skilled receiver in terms of route running or in terms of catching the ball. You know what I mean? Like he's not the most polished guy, but they found ways to get him the ball. So you're kind of hoping that starts to happen soon because it's not like they've thrown his way and he's dropping it. He has 2 targets. Like, what is that? I don't understand. I don't know what's going on.
Even better, we've talked about he's not really the most polished guy. But the thing is, when he does get the ball, man, he's electric when he has it in his hands. I still remember that hurdle, man. Like he's good once he has the ball. It's getting the ball that's the problem right now. And our last nightmare, Kyle, the Colts running game. Dude, Jonathan Taylor was a lot of people's first round pick this year, and he has 6.3 points on 15 attempts, 51 yards, 1 catch for 2 yards. That is abysmal. That is beyond abysmal. That is dreadful. Even better, Hines, who I have in one league, has 3.20 points, 1 attempt, 5 yards, 2 targets, 1 catch for 17 yards. Holy cow. Like what is happening? Like
that's the Carson Wentz effect, I think. I think it really has to be. Nyheim Hines last year down the stretch did like very, very well. Yeah. He saw the ball in the backfield a lot. He got a lot of catches. I mean, these guys are weapons, and Taylor can catch the ball too, and he can run with it. You know what I mean? He's not a one-trick pony. He's not just a ground and pound kind of guy. So I think a lot of that is on Wentz. It has to be because he doesn't really see the running backs a lot unless they're the first option in the play. Like he doesn't check the ball down at all. He's very aggressive, which is sometimes good, but sometimes just really bad too. So yeah.
Well, we kind of addressed it with it should get better now that Wentz is out. Are you still starting Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor with Wentz being out, or will they be back on Nightmare Jock Street?
I think Taylor has to be back in the thick of things. He has to be. They're going to have to rely on the running game when Jacob Eason is in. Like you said, they faced some pretty good defenses the first couple of games. There's no way Jonathan Taylor, this is going to be him the rest of the year. He was too electric last year, too good for him to be like this. Let me see. Yeah, they play Tennessee then Miami. Those are both decent matchups, I think. I don't think they're going to pass the ball that much against Tennessee. I mean, he might, but like it's Jacob Eason, so they're going to have to rely on Jonathan Taylor for sure. He has to be better. I just think there's no way that he's going to be on Nightmare on Jock Street forever.
Hope not. But all right, so that's all of our terrible dreams we've been having on Nightmare on Jock Street. Let's move on. So it's not Wheel of Defense this week, Kyle. You came up with Wheel of Tight Ends. I had to put some not big name guys because I mean it'd be easy for us to talk about Waller and Kelsey and Kittle and Hawkinson and Andrews, like those guys, easy to talk about, no problem. Let's talk about some like low riding kind of guys that might be kind of worth it. The first one for me, Kyle, is Robert Tunyon. He's averaging 8.50 points, and his next game is against the 49ers. Is he startable this week? What do you make of Tunyon?
No. I like him. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones steal a lot of his thunder. I think at times last year, I think one game last year, he probably had 2 touchdowns or something, or 3.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be very hit or miss, I think. He's playing against Niners this week. They got Fred Warner. He ain't going to see – I don't think he's going to see much happening for him this week. Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz both got shut down this last week in terms of tight end production. So I don't think Tanyon's going to see that much this week.
The second one, Kyle, this one was kind of a shock for me, and that's why I had to put it on here, is Jack Doyle. He is averaging 9.25 points, and his next game is against the Titans. Once again, Kyle, is this real? Is this just a matter of circumstance with who he's played against? What do you think?
Well, he had 8 targets the second week. That bodes well for the future if you're getting the ball 8 times a game. So against the Titans, like I said, I don't think Jacob Eason's going to be lights out and pass the ball downfield and get a lot of throws downfield. I think he's going to rely on the run game and the play action. So I think Doyle could be a good start this week against the Titans. I do.
The third one we have here is Austin Hooper. He's averaging 7.35 points. His next game is against the Bears. What do you think, Kyle? I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious to see what you think about Hooper.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about him. I wasn't even really crazy about him last year. I just really don't think they look to him as often as they don't really need to. I mean, they got such a good offense. They have a system going. They are a run-heavy team. Now with Jarvis Landry out, maybe his production goes up. That's something to monitor. I don't think against the Bears, though, that he's going to be successful. They got some pretty good linebackers there, but maybe after this week, he's someone to look out for.
The thing that also bugs me is he's sharing time with Njoku and somebody else that I can't think of right now. So he's not like the lone tight end.
Right.
So even then, he may not have a game because there's somebody else that's in that red zone situation that he's not. So the next two will be interesting. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. One of them is Jared Cook. He is averaging 8.20 points. His next game is against the Chiefs. Kyle, is Jared Cook even fantasy viable? I really don't even know what I think about Jared Cook at this point.
I think he is. I think Justin Herbert looks for his tight end quite a bit. He had a very successful relationship with Hunter Henry last year. No, Jared Cook's not Hunter Henry. He's a little bit older, but he's just different. He's different. He's skilled differently. He's built differently than Hunter Henry is. He was pretty successful at times in New Orleans last year. Yeah. I think you'll see him get the ball quite a bit. They need somebody in the middle of the field, and I think they have Donald Parham also, who's 6'8". He's a massive human being, but I think Jared Cook's just more of an all-around, do-it-all kind of tight end for them, and he'll see the field, I think, more. So I'm a little bit higher on Jared Cook than other people. And against the Chiefs, you might have to go up against Tyrann Mathieu a little bit, but he's coming back from an injury. But the Chiefs, I think, are pretty good against tight ends, so maybe not this week.
Yeah. The thing that really gets me about Jared Cook also is you also have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams that are soaking up a whole lot of targets from Herbert. So I'm not convinced he's ever going to be like a 15 to 20 some odd point player.
No.
But I think he'll be decent. The last one here, Kyle, you're going to laugh. Tyler Higbee. He is averaging 6.80 points. His next game is against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Higbee was supposed to be the big man last year and was not. This year, he has a much better quarterback under center, but it doesn't seem like they're looking for him a whole lot. Is he viable?
The first game he got about 6 targets. Second game he got 1. So like I said before with Cooper Kupp, like they're looking his way, they're looking Bobby Trees' way. I think he's going to be a hit or miss kind of guy like he was last year. Remember last year, I think one game that I lost, it was because Higbee got like 25 points. And then the rest of the season, he got like, 2, then 6, then 7, then like, you know what I mean? He was very inconsistent last year. I think that's going to carry over to this year as well.
That's entirely possible. So that will wrap up Wheel of Tight Ends, and unfortunately, we'll also wrap up our episode of Armchair GMs. Kyle, thanks for doing this. This is probably my favorite of the 3 shows. Please don't tell Luke. But once again, check out our stuff. We're trying to help you win championships because honestly, it's that 1 or 2 player away from being a championship team. But we will see you live on Tuesday next week for Jock Talk. And Friday, we will be posting our first random fandom video. Thanks so much for your support. Like, share, comment. Tell us what you'd like to hear from us, and we will see you later.